All right, Mark will ask the final question and begin with candidate 5.
Thanks again. Okay, this is the topic of industry, and it's hyper-local. Narragansett and South Kingstown have a long tradition of commercial fishing. What can the General Assembly do to better support the fishing fleet in the Port of Galilee, as well as encourage the burgeoning aquaculture industry in local waters?
Growing up, when I went to high school, South Kingston High School, there were always a handful of guys that were getting out, and becoming a fisherman was one of the main careers. That was one of the main career paths from anyone that went to South Kingstown or Narragansett. I had an opportunity not too long ago to run into a bunch of my classmates, many of which are still fishing, and I was told, you know, he said anybody would be crazy to get into this industry now because there's just no money in it. They're so over-regulated that they're finding it hard to make a living. So you don't see new students getting out of high school seeing that as an option, which is a shame. I think it's a case where you need to have a very strong balance with protecting the environment, protecting our oceans, protecting the, you want enough fish, but when these fishermen are coming back saying, hey, we've got them and we're throwing them over, we can't bring them in because it's against the regulations, and they're saying to the scientists, there are plenty of fish out there. At some point, you have to listen to the people that are seeing it. So I think there really needs to be a partnership and some understanding between the industry and the scientists and come together. And ultimately, the fishermen are scientists. They're the ones that are out there. They're the ones that are seeing it. They're the ones that are seeing how many fish, what's going on. And their voice needs to be heard. I think they honestly, from all the fishermen I've spoken to, they feel like they've really hit a brick wall. They feel that the regulations are so strict that their hands are tied, and some of them have said to me, you know, I've got this big fishing boat, I can't sell it because who's going to buy it? The industry is just not there. And I think it's important, it's especially important to us. We're so fortunate to have Galilee right here, and we need to do everything we can to help bring that industry back to where it was. I do think there's enough fish, and we need to work very hard to loosen some regulations to allow them to make their livings. Thank you.
Candidate 2.
Thank you. I want to see how much time I have left first, because I know it's...
You see?
Oh, and it started already.
It's
okay.
3 minutes,
Yeah.
8 seconds. Oh, 8. Yeah.
So, our fishing industry is a huge asset to our state. In fact, the Port of Galilee is the second largest port in the Northeast, in both landings in dollars and pounds. And there is new investment happening, actually, in the port. There's a lot of new investment happening. And I can see the old co-op being completely revived. I've seen the empty place next to the Coast Guard station have a $500,000 brand new investment from a local fisherman that, though he was born and raised in Narragansett, he chose for years to go over to Massachusetts to take his fish out because of the regulations. I fought hard to make sure that those regulations would change. I made sure that it would be worthwhile for him to bring his business back to Rhode Island and back to the Port of Galilee. And he now, just last week when I was there visiting him, told me he's buying a brand new boat. So there are opportunities in our state, and understanding what is going on in this port is critical to understanding the economy in District 34, which is why I spent 2 years prior to running for office attending regulatory meetings, because you cannot learn this stuff on the fly. You cannot wait until your office to understand the biggest piece of the economy in our district. You have to be prepared, like when out-of-state pair trawlers came in and raided our state's waters. We needed to protect that resource for our state's interests, and we needed to find a way to walk that line so that it was legal. And I was there on day one making sure that just that happened with proposals. And I have to say, as far as aquaculture goes, we have to do what we can to reduce closures. And I have passed legislation that eliminated cesspools to help protect our waters, to protect our bays, and to protect our salt ponds, because this is another up-and-coming part of our industry and the economy that is really thriving in the state of Rhode Island. And when it comes to the fishing fleet, we are working to streamline regulations. Like I said, one of the first things that I accomplished in office was making sure that fishermen who were out of state, who wanted to haul out in the Port of Galilee, they would have to park their boat in Galilee, find a way to drive up to Providence, hope that it was before 4:30 to be able to get a permit to offload. Now they can do it from on their boat as they're motoring in, and all of a sudden we're taking in many more tens of thousands of pounds of fish in our ports and processing it. And again, these are things that I learned prior to being on the job. And DEM has taken on a number of lean initiatives. The federal government has made huge investment in our infrastructure. If you go to the port right now, you will see brand new bulkheads, and you will see an amazing difference in the quality of the infrastructure and the quality of the management system, frankly, in DEM. I don't deny that there's a lot more that we can do, but you have to understand the industry in order to be able to be effective and make those changes happen. Thank you.
Candidate 3.
So the fishing industry, that was an issue that did come up with when I was going door to door with one of the voters, and it wasn't a fisherman. It was just somebody that was really concerned about the fishermen. I really do think we need to protect the Port of Galilee. And I grew up as a first-generation Polish American. My parents immigrated from Poland, and I grew up in a mill town in Pawtucket. And I saw what happened in the state to manufacturing. I mean, it just diminished and it dwindled down. My parents lost jobs. My dad still works at the same manufacturing company he has, but we experienced what it was like for the changes in the state in manufacturing. So I do not want to see that happening in the fishing industry. So we really need to protect that. So we just need to see how the fishing industry has to adapt to the climate change, environmental laws, and the cost of fuel and infrastructure. And we really need to invest in innovation and make sure that we can transform this industry to survive. I think looking at the regulations, I think we want to keep our fishermen here, and we want to make sure that it's a vibrant port, because it is beautiful, and I think we really need to protect it.